I'm Shantae Sumter. Thanks for joining us for this King 5 special. I am here in Kent at the Kent Des Moines station as we prepare for Link Light Rail to extend into Federal Way. So a very exciting time ahead. I'm joined by King 5's Drew Andre, who is down in Federal Way at Federal Way downtown, which will be the new end of the Link Light Rail, which is just an amazing point to see, Drew, especially when we think about the delays and how long it took to get here.
Oh, right, Shantae. And Federal Way has such high hopes for what is going to happen here. And this really is going to be a game changer for people who commute in South King County and even Pierce County, too. So a very exciting start to this new extension here.
Well, thanks, Drew, and we will be checking back in with him in just a few moments. But for those of you preparing for tomorrow when those new stations will open, let me tell you what you can expect. So, of course, I am here at Kent Des Moines, so that is the first of 3 new stops. And here's the plan for tomorrow. Now, once all of this is said and done, Light Rail will be adding nearly 8 miles parallel to I-5. So this is really going to expand that project into South King County. So it includes those 3 new stations, Kent Des Moines, which is right here along Highway 509 near the intersection of I-5, Highway 516, and near Highline College. The next stop down the line is Star Lake Station. That is next to I-5 at South 272nd Street. And the final stop downtown Federal Way, where you just saw Drew there. That's on South 320th Street, just west of I-5 and close to the Commons Mall and shopping centers. So this will bring Light Rail one step closer to one day reaching Tacoma. Sound Transit says you'll be able to get from Federal Way to SeaTac in just 16 minutes and to downtown Seattle in under an hour. And from here at Kent Des Moines, you'll be able to get to T-Mobile Park and Lumen Field in just under 40 minutes. So definitely going to make a big difference. Now, the total price tag of this is about $2.5 billion. That work started back in 2020. So it's been a long time coming to get here, but we will finally see that happen. And of course, Drew, construction didn't go exactly as planned. At one point, transit officials had to make some changes to the route. But Drew, what led to that?
Well, Shantae, this was all about safety, and it actually delayed this extension by about 1.5 years and cost $100 million. But Sound Transit says it was a necessary change. We're talking about the area in Kent around the McSorley Creek wetland. During construction, Sound Transit found unstable soils went down pretty deep, and it wasn't suitable for pylons to go in there. It wouldn't have been stable enough to survive an earthquake, so they designed a bridge to go over the problematic soil.
We had to go back to the drawing board. We sat down with our design builder and other project team members and looked at different solutions, and this was the one that made the most sense. To just, instead of trying to build through the wetlands, we built over them.
And it is the longest bridge in the Sound Transit system. Sound Transit says it is now perfectly safe. So this isn't going to require more inspections or anything like that than a typical bridge, according to Sound Transit. Shantae, I'll send it back to you.
Well, Thanks for that, Drew. So as we look forward to the Federal Way extension, I know a lot of people have wondered what will happen with what comes next. We know eventually Light Rail will move into Tacoma, so that's one thing that a lot of people are looking forward to. And at that point, when that happens, construction hasn't quite started on that yet, but it is a story that we have been following as well, and that's where the next plans are. So Kings 5 Savannah Welch has a story on that and what you can expect.
We're still a few years away from breaking ground on that project, but right here at the end of the Federal Way Link extension is where the next phase will begin, connecting train service even further into the South Sound.
It would be so nice to take the light rail and just catch a cab and to the game, cab back to the station, and just go.
For commuters like Terry, the Tacoma Light Rail extension would mean easier access to Seattle. Construction is set to start around 2030, with trains expected to begin running by 2035.
This is also the beginning of the Tacoma Dome Link extension.
From Federal Way, it's a 10-mile stretch with 4 planned stations: South Federal Way, Fife, Portland Avenue in Tacoma, and the Tacoma Dome.
We're actively pursuing the environmental review process, and the design is underway. We're working with affected jurisdictions and affected residents to make sure that this is a good project for everybody.
The expansion is estimated to cost between $5 and $6 billion, and Sound Transit says most of that will come from taxpayer money. The agency says it may also pursue federal funding. South Sound commuters who already rely on the Sounder train say better transit options can't come soon enough.
It makes the commute a lot easier, not having to always use the car.
Anytime I do get a chance to take a game, the Sounder bypasses all of that traffic. It's always super relaxing and a chill break from the freeway grind.
Sound Transit expects the Tacoma Dome Link extension will serve more than 20,000 daily riders, connecting communities throughout the South Sound.
And of course, the timeline could still shift. Sound Transit says the final design, environmental work, and funding approvals will ultimately determine when crews can actually start construction. In Federal Way, Savannah Welch, King 5 News.
So, of course, that's something we will keep a close eye on. But the moment is here, of course, to get these 3 new stations here at Kent Des Moines. One, we have Star Lake and, of course, Federal Way downtown. And with us this morning, we have the mayor of Kent, Dana Ralph. Thank you so much for getting up with us this morning and coming out.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here to help us celebrate this project.
Yeah, it is a huge moment, I imagine, for people here in Kent. We've seen the trains go by for months. What will this mean for your residents?
It really means the opportunity to be connected. It means that Kent residents are connected to the rest of the region, but the region is also connected to Kent. So my hope is that we're looking at this as folks from up north having ease of access to come and enjoy all the things here in our city, and then our residents being able to go and explore other places.
And when we think about developments, I know we've spoken with the mayors of Federal Way and Linwood and seen how this has kind of impacted developers wanting to come. What is coming next for Kent? Anything you can share?
Absolutely. So we've been planning for this for probably the last 2 decades. And we know that the stations being here will kick off a variety of redevelopment. We've got property in front of us that's going to bring housing, commercial, other retail opportunities. So this is just the beginning for what this neighborhood has really deserved for a very long time.
And one other thing to consider when we think about the light rail coming here, we have a Highline College, that sort of thing. What have residents personally have been telling your office about what this will do for them in their daily commute?
So the access to the college, I think, is one thing that's really important for students to be able to get here using transit. For our residents, it means that they get to move, like I said, around the region, whether it be just getting to the airport. I've talked to people that are saying, now I can Uber to the station and then go to the airport. So things like that, getting to events downtown or work, having the opportunity to have access multiple hours of the day.
And one last thing, we know that there's going to be a lot of celebrations happening here tomorrow. What is the thing you are most excited about?
Being able to show this project off to the public. Our city staff has been working on this nonstop, like I said, for so many years, and being able to highlight that great work to me is really, really important.
Oh yeah, definitely happy to finally be here, and thank you so much for coming out and speaking with us this morning.
No, thank you for helping us celebrate.
All right, well, again, that was Mayor Dana Ralph here in the city of Kent. So as we look ahead, we will have these new stations expanding into Federal Way. A lot of people are wondering about the 2 line. When will the trains be moving across Lake Washington? We have been able to speak to the CEO of Sound Transit, Dow Constantine, about this, and he did mention that the light rail will indeed be open in time for the World Cup, and the official target date is now in May.
We have May 31st as our target date, but we are working every day to try to make it sooner than that. And it is less a budget constraint as it was some challenges with the construction in past years, but we are now catching up. Testing is going very well on the I-90 floating bridge. We have trains out in the evenings. We're going to be having them during the day. We're moving through the phases of testing, and then we'll be moving into operator training so that we are ready to go.
And as you heard us mention a few moments ago, billions of dollars have been invested in this system. So nice to see. We will be moving across Lake Washington soon, and we will have an exact date in January. But when we think about the money invested into this, a lot of people are wondering what will happen to that notorious I-5 traffic. Will my commute get easier? I spoke to a researcher at UW, and the answer isn't clear cut. If it feels like traffic has been getting worse, you're not imagining it.
The geography of the Seattle area, there's only so many north-south connections that you can use. And so I-5 is the major one, and 99 is the other one, and it's easy to get stuck in the traffic.
Ryan Avery is the deputy director at the Washington State Transportation Center, studying how people move through the region. He says the light rail system plays a major role, even if you don't feel it behind the wheel. Light rail now carries 120,000 passengers a day, a 20,000 increase over the year since the Linwood extension opened.
Even if half of those people came from Linwood, you're talking about the whole day, and that is less than 10%. It's like 6% of the traffic that's on I-5. And that's if every single one of them shifted from driving a vehicle on I-5 to riding the light rail. And we don't really know where they came from.
NRIC's researchers pulled data on travel times on portions of I-5, 405, and Highway 99 a year before and after the Linwood extension. Southbound on I-5 and Highway 99, travel times actually improved by about 1 minute. But northbound, travel times increased by 1.5 minutes. And 405 got worse in both directions, up about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes in delays. Avery says several factors are at play. This year's Revive I-5 work and return to office mandates likely drowned out progress that could have been made. Plus, Sound Transit didn't increase train frequency. That will change when the 2-line across Lake Washington opens next year. Trains will run every 4 minutes instead of every 10, more than doubling capacity. At that point, researchers think we could see a noticeable difference. Avery says even when people do switch from driving to transit, the freeway traffic tends to fill the space they leave behind.
I think that the effect, anything that gets slightly better, there are also more people moving to the region. The region is still growing. And so that slight gap in capacity gets taken up by something else. So we're making it less bad, which doesn't sound great, but that actually is a really great story to tell.
Researchers are puzzled by how traffic congestion has bounced back to pre-pandemic levels, even though more people are working from home now. Even as new extensions open, CEO Dow Constantine says it will not affect traffic congestion.
Provides more certainty, provides more convenience. You're able to reclaim that time for your family and for your life. But it is not a magic solution to congestion on Interstate 5 or any other highway.
So likely not the answer a lot of people are looking for, but it does provide another alternative, as you heard CEO Constantine and the expert from UW mention. And that's something we saw, especially during the Mariners postseason, a lot of people using the light rail. However, that congestion on I-5 and our other major roads, it is sticking around. But we still have much more for you this morning. Coming up in just a few moments after this break, we have a look at the growing role of light rail in keeping our region moving through the population boom we're experiencing right now and the next. Plus, we will have a look back in at Federal Way. The light rail means new developments. Drew will give us what leaders there are planning and what they're learning from a city at the other end of the line. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for our special on the light rail expansion. I'm Shantae Sumter here in Kent, one of those new stations. And as we look at this opportunity for the new stations, of course, that means the opportunity for development. King 5's Drew Andre spoke with the mayors of Federal Way and of Linwood. He'll have more on that in just a few moments. But first, we want to talk about regional growth. More explosive population growth is expected to continue in this region, which will make getting around even more of a challenge. King 5's Farah Jadran spoke with local officials who say transit is the key to our region's future, but the clock is ticking.
Connecting Western Washington is moving full speed ahead, with light rail extensions pushing south toward Tacoma and east across Lake Washington. Regional planners say they're one step closer to realizing a vision that's been on the drawing board since the 1960s.
It's really great to get one step closer to be able to connect the core of King County, Seattle in particular, with Tacoma and Pierce County. We're getting closer.
The Puget Sound Regional Council sees light rail as more than just transportation. It's a catalyst for housing and jobs in rapidly growing areas like Federal Way.
Federal Way is an interesting place. It's one of our identified regional growth centers.
The stakes are enormous. A 25-year projection shows the region is expected to add 1.5 million new residents, and planners are building with that massive growth in mind. But some communities have been waiting years, even decades, for promised connections. So what's putting the brakes on the big plan?
Cost escalations have been a big challenge, and we're not just seeing that with transit, we're seeing that with all transportation projects. Every highway project that's under construction is dealing with the same cost escalations.
Planners admit the region missed critical opportunities. The groundwork connecting Tacoma to Seattle to Everett to Bellevue should have been laid generations ago.
This has been a dream for the region for decades, and getting to Federal Way is just one step closer to be able to connect to Tacoma. And we know that when we eventually connect light rail to Tacoma, that's just going to unleash some amazing economic development opportunities.
Currently, 125,000 people ride light rail every day, moving it into second place behind Los Angeles for busiest systems in the nation. And with the I-90 floating bridge extension targeted for next summer, those numbers will only grow.
Is really going to become, and already is, the backbone of our transit system in the Puget Sound region.
I spoke with the Tacoma Transportation Commission about the future of light rail in the Grit City, and they told me it can't come fast enough. The city is expecting a population increase and job growth of its own. While still in planning stages, the commission is still hopeful and anticipating light rail service arriving at Tacoma Dome Station by 2035. In the King 5 studios, I'm Farah Jadran.
Thanks for that, Farah. It's definitely something that people are counting down for. And as we've seen with these new stations come new developments, new opportunities. We just heard Kent's mayor spoke about that just a few moments ago. King 5's Drew Andre is down at the end of the system at Federal Way downtown. Drew, I know you spoke with city leaders who are already planning around this development.
Well, Shantae, here in Federal Way, they really believe that this is going to become a hub. Part of that is because they're here at the end of the line. So they're right now racing to build housing and also businesses right around this transit center here. But they're also taking notes from city leaders up north, too, where we've seen several light rail stations over the last couple of years.
We're putting the welcome sign out and saying, welcome home to Federal Way.
Just north of the Federal Way station, this large empty plot of land will soon be a civic plaza. Permitting is approved for a mix of housing and retail space.
Over the next 20 years in Federal Way, we're going to need 11,000 more units in our downtown.
It's a lofty goal that also includes plans to eventually transform the Commons into a more modern mall with mixed-use development. Look no further than Linwood, where a similar kind of growth is just a few steps ahead. Its light rail station opened last August.
Within a 2-3 maybe block radius of the station itself, we've had well over 1,000 units that are either already open or are currently in the works. You see the demand that people want to live and play and work near light rail and mass transit.
The 1,600 space garage usually fills up by 8 a.m. and a constant flow of Snohomish County commuters pack onto the trains.
Our money, gas prices are outrageous, and so this is just a really nice way to get back and forth to work.
Businesses within walking distance of the Linwood station, like the Japanese restaurant Wild Wasabi, are reaping the benefits too.
Since there's more apartments, more people, means more customers coming in.
Smart developers and investors and property owners saw the future and what light rail would do for a community. So a lot of these investors came years before even the construction was starting.
City leaders hope, like Linwood, Federal Way's growth will take off once the trains start rolling.
Federal Way really appears centered in the Puget Sound region to take advantage of all these things.
And now we are here live with Federal Way's Mayor, Jim Ferrell, who you just saw right there. So I'm curious, Jim, what makes you confident that people are going to stop here, and why should they be coming to Federal Way?
Well, we're going to see probably between 20 to 30,000 more people per day in our downtown. It's going to transform our downtown. But what I also say is that, people are coming not only for, the convenience of the transportation, but a vibrant restaurant scene, international restaurant scene. We've got the mall and our beautiful performing arts and event center. So it's all converging here at this location.
Immediately, how much is this going to change the way people operate that live in your city?
Well, they're going to see a big change right away. But, we've put a lot of infrastructure in to make sure that it's not going to be a traffic jam scenario. And that took a lot of planning, a lot of outreach, but also just a lot of forethought and coordination. Sound Transit, State Department of Transportation. So what I would say is they're going to see a lot more people, but it's going to mean a lot more investment in our community.
We're talking about thousands of new housing units that are going to be popping up.
That's
Who are
right.
the kind of people that you think you're going to attract here?
All kinds. I mean, you're going to have young people that are, looking for a place where they can get their first apartment. But you also have, folks that maybe in a single family housing that may not want to downsize and move, closer where services are. So it's a real mix. And that's the thing about in a community like this, we're going to include 11,000 new units in the next 20 years. So Federal Way is really going to go vertical, and we want to make sure that we've got a real variety of housing.
Yeah, what's the advantage here being at the end of the line? Why do you think that is part of the key to this success?
Hey, we're the front door, to really points north. I mean, whether you want to go to work in downtown or points before that, or go to Husky Stadium or see a Seahawk game, this is really, or a Mariner game, Sounders. There are all kinds of things in which people are going to be able to get here, from points south and east and west, and be able to park their car here and head north as an entry point into King County.
All right, well, thank you so much. And Mayor Jim Ferrell was just reelected, so he'll be at the helm for at least another 4 years here as this development continues. Shantae, we'll send it back over to you.
Thanks, Drew. Definitely, it's an exciting time. A lot of events are planned around each of these stations. So coming up, I'll tell you how you can get in on all of the fun happening tomorrow. Plus, we will take a look back at how we got to this point at this latest expansion and where Sound Transit hopes to go in the future. welcome back. We are still tracking the latest developments on the future of the light rail as we talk more about the expansion plan for tomorrow when those 3 new stations will open up. But Drew Andre will have more on the future in just a few moments. But first, we want to talk about how we got here to this moment of getting these new stations opening up. So it all started back when voters approved this in 1996. In 2003, work began on what was then called the Central Link, now known as the One Line. The first phase opened in 2009, running between the Westlake and Tukwila International Boulevard stations. Later that year, the airport station opened. Then in 2016, Angle Lake was added to the south end, and the north was extended to Capitol Hill and UW. Well, as things continued, there was a second light rail package that funded the Northgate expansion that opened up in the fall of 2021. This pushed the One Line north to the U District, Roosevelt, and to Northgate Mall. And the most recent expansion, it didn't stop there. That was when we got all the way into Snohomish County with the One Line opening up in Linwood. 8 miles of new track opened in August of last year, connecting Shoreline, Mount Lake Terrace, and Linwood. And as we look ahead to the future, those projects, of course, began advancing with that work that began in 2016, the 2-line project that would bring the light rail across Lake Washington for the first time. The first phase of the 2-line opened in spring of 2024 between Bellevue and Redmond Technology Center, with an additional phase extending it into downtown Redmond in May of this year. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the 2-line will be up and running across Lake Washington by the World Cup, but the goal is for that to happen by May 31st. We got that information from CEO Dow Constantine. We told you about that a little earlier. But looking ahead to the future, light rail, still so much planned across the region. And for more on that, let's check back in with Drew Andre.
Well, and Shantae, I think viewers at this point are getting the gist that Sound Transit has some big ambitions when it comes to expanding around the Seattle metro area. Of course, they are dealing with rising costs as all of this is going on. That only keeps growing with time. As we mentioned earlier, they're hoping to reach Tacoma by 2035, up to Everett by 2041, and out to Issaquah by 2044. In the city of Seattle, the West Seattle extension has reached the design phase with the targeted opening of 2032. We just learned one of those stations at Avalon may be removed to save money, and planners are also narrowing down a route to extend to Ballard, which would include a new tunnel under downtown with a timeline to open by 2039. So there is a lot in the works, Shantae.
Yeah, Drew, a lot of people looking forward to that. We still have a long way to go, but at least we know that we will get one more piece to the puzzle by May of next year. So that's something to look forward to. Well, it's going to be a fun time ahead. There's events planned throughout the weekend here at Kent, Des Moines, and all of the other stations. So for those of you wondering how you can get involved in the fun, Sound Transit has a big lineup scheduled for tomorrow. The grand opening will kick off at 9:30 at that Federal Way downtown station. So that's 9:30 tomorrow morning with a street fair and live music. The ribbon cutting is at 11, and at that point you can get on board and check out those new stops. There will also be events happening here at Kent, Des Moines and at Star Lake. And a cool thing happening, the first 500 riders to get a ticket stamped at all 3 stops will get a limited edition one-line beanie, and other prizes will also be up for grabs. So I know a lot of you have reached out to the station and expressed that you are excited even on those comments. So I'm sure you'll be out and about and enjoying this moment. Here at the Kent Des Moines station is quiet right now, but we have seen them continuing to test those trains. So the moment is near. Come out and enjoy. And if you do, be sure to send us some pictures. That's all we have for now. I hope you have a great rest of your day.